Hello and welcome back to the 8.6 notes. This is a section about applications and problem solving. So mainly what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a bunch of word problems, okay? And so, our objective that we want to do is we want to be able to solve applied problems by translating into equations. So there's some steps involved in solving these types of equations. The first thing you want to do is familiarize yourself with the problem situation. So you want to understand this. Be able to take what's being all these problems and translate them into an equation, solve that equation, and then check the answer to the original problem, and then state the answer to the problem clearly. Okay, so I'm going to go through this on how I would do it, and then we'll just continue to work on them. Okay, so first example is cycling in Vietnam. Okay, so National Highway 1, which runs along the coast of Vietnam, is considered one of the top routes for avid bicyclists. While on a sabbatical, a history professor spent 6 weeks riding 1,720 kilometers on National Highway 1. Okay, at Ha Tin, he was 4 times as far from Ho Chi Minh City as he was from Hanoi. How far had he biked, and how far did he still need to bike in order to reach the end? So now that I've read through this, one of the things I want to do is kind of highlight important information, okay? And I'm just going to go through and highlight a few things. And the first thing is, 6 weeks is maybe some important information, but this distance here, 1,720 kilometers from Hanoi through Ha Tin to Ho Chi Minh City. Okay. Now, the other information that's important here was that at Ha Tin, he was four times as far from Ho Chi Minh City as he was from Hanoi. Okay, and then the question that's being asked is how far had he biked, and how far did he still need to bike in order to reach the end? So one of the things I'm going to do here is draw a picture to help familiarize myself with this problem. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a number line. Okay, and I'm going to start at one point and go to the other. And so at Ha Tin, he was so at one end point, I'm going to write that he starts at Hanoi. Okay, so I'm going to call this point here Hanoi. Okay. All right, and then the ending point is to Ho Chi Minh City. So Ho Chi Minh. So Ho Chi Minh City, and then Ha Tin is somewhere in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to put a point here and put this as Ha Tin. Okay, and all I'm doing is getting that information from the reading. Okay, and trying to figure out where is he at. Okay, so now the part that I'm interested in is this. At Ha Tin, so you start at Hanoi, you get to Ha Tin. He was 4 times as far from Ho Chi Minh City as he was from Hanoi. Okay, so what I know is this: is that from Hanoi, or from Ho Chi Minh City, from Ha Tin to Ho Chi Minh City, he was 4 times as far. So I'm going to call that 4x. Okay? And then I'm going to call the distance from Hanoi to Ha Tin as a length of x. Okay? Now what I know is that this whole distance here is 1,720 kilometers. Okay? Now what I know is that if I were to take the distance of x, okay, add it to 4x, then that would end up giving me 1,720. Okay. Now what I want to do is solve for x. Okay. So what I want to do here is combine my like terms. So I've got x and 4x. If I add those together, okay, the next step in my problem, and I'm going to do this all up here. Okay, so x plus 4x is going to give me 5x. Okay, so 5x is equal to 1,720. Okay, now to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Okay, and so those divide out, and so my x value is going to equal 344. Okay, so that's 344 kilometers. Okay, and so the question that it's asking us is how far had he biked? Okay, and this is the original bike, and then how far did he still need to bike in order to reach the end? So here's your start, here's where we're talking about, and then here's the end. So we want to talk about how far had he biked. Okay, so how much has he biked? So he had biked, and that's the value of x, which is 344 kilometers. And then the rest to go, okay, the rest of the trip to go is going to be 4 times 344. Okay, and the way I get that is because, I'm thinking about this. This is the part that he had biked. Okay, that's just my x value, which is 344, and then the remaining part to go is 4x. Okay, so 4 times 344 is going to be a value of 1,376 kilometers. Okay, and so that's my answer. All right, so it is a little bit, some of this stuff you have to read the question and know what it's asking you to do in order to answer that. Okay. Okay, let's talk about the next one. The next one is called knitted scarf. Okay, so Lily knitted a scarf with the shades of orange and red yarn, starting with an orange section, then a medium red section, and finally a dark red section. The medium red section is 1/2 the length of the orange section. The dark red section is 1/4 the length of the orange section. Okay, the scarf is 7 feet long. Find the length of each section of the scarf. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go through this, find important information. Okay, and so what I know is this. The medium red section is 1/2 the length of the orange section. The dark red section is 1/4 the length of the orange section. Okay, the scarf is 7 feet long. Now the question that it's asking us is find the length of each section of scarf. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to draw a picture. Okay, and so from one end point to the next is this. I'm going to put a point in between. Okay, well, we've got 3 sections here, so I need 4 points. Okay, so this is my orange section. Okay, this is my medium red, so medium red. Okay, and then this part here is my dark red. Okay, now what I know is that my medium red section, so this section right here, is going to be 1/2 the length of the orange section. The dark red section is 1/4 the length of the orange section. Okay, so what they don't tell us is they don't tell us what the orange section is. So I'm going to let X be the orange section. So I'm going to call that X. The medium red section is 1/2 the length. So I'm going to put 1/2 times X in for my medium red section. And then my dark red section is going to be 1/4 the length of my orange section, okay? And so that kind of just helps me, drawing that picture helps me do that. Now, what I know is that if the whole length here is 7 feet long, okay? So 7 feet of that whole distance, okay? And we want to find the length of each section, all right? So the first thing I want to do is solve for x, because if I find out what x is, then I can find out what each of these sections are. Now, if I take x plus 1/2 x plus 1/4 x, that's going to give me 7 feet. So let me translate that into an equation here, all right? So I'm going to write x plus 1/2 x plus 1/4 x is equal to 7, okay? Now what I want to do is get a common denominator here, all right? And so what I have, and I just want to get that over here because it's hard for me to add x, 1/2 x, and 1/4 x. So what I want to do, I'm going to put this, I'm going to put a 1 over 1 here, okay? Now, to get a common denominator of 4 on this part, I'm going to multiply this by 2 over 2. So multiply by 2 over 2 here. And then over here, I want to multiply this one by 4 over 4, okay? And so what I'm going to get as a result is this. I'm going to get 4 over 4x plus 2 over 4x plus 1 over 4x, and that's going to be equal to 7, okay? Now, when I add these together, I'm going to keep, I can combine all these like terms now. Okay, I'm going to keep a denominator of 4, all right, but I'm just going to add my numerators. So now I have 4 plus 2 plus 1 all over 4 times x is equal to 7. Okay, combine all my numerators together, and that's going to give me 4 plus 2 plus 1 is 4 plus 3. That's going to give me 7/4. Okay, times x is equal to 7. Okay, now what I want to do, in order to move this 7/4 to the other side, I want to multiply by its reciprocal to move that. So I'm going to multiply by 4 over 7, okay, and I'm going to put this over 1, all right, and I'm going to multiply this by 4 over 7, okay, and so my 7s are going to divide out, my 4s are going to divide out, and so on the left side we're just going to have x, and that's going to equal 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, so I got 28 over 1 times 7, which is 7. Okay, and so then 28 divided by 7 is going to give me 4. Okay, and so that's what I've got. All right, my solution here is that x is equal to 4. All right, now what I need to find are my different sections. Okay, so I've got my orange section. Okay. I've got my medium red section, and I have my dark red section. Now, my orange section was just x. Okay, my orange section is 4 feet. Okay, and that's what I know. All right, my medium red section was 1/2 the length of my orange section. So 1/2 times x, which is 4, and that's going to give me 4 times 1/2 is just going to give me 2. So this is 2 feet. All right. And then my medium red section is going to give me 1/4 times 4. Now 4 times 1/4 is just going to give me 1 feet. Okay. And this is my answer. All right, and so I've got, if you take 4 and add it to 2 and add it to 1, that's going to give you a total Okay, total of 7 feet. All right, and that's it. That's all we're doing. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, on this one, it says limited edition prints. Okay, so a limited edition print is usually signed and numbered by the artist. Okay, for example, a limited edition of only 50 prints would be numbered 1 out of 50, 2 out of 50, 3 out of 50, and so on. Okay, an estate donates 2 prints numbered consecutively from a limited edition with 150 prints. The sum of these two numbers is 263. So we want to find the numbers of the prints. All right. So all this information up here, is important. Okay, but what I want to put down is this: an estate donates 2 prints numbered consecutively from a limited edition with 150 prints. Okay, the sum of the 2 prints is 263. Okay, and the question that's asking us is just to find the numbers of the prints. All right, so here's what I've got. What I know is that if I take the numbers x, okay, that's my first number, and if I were to add these 2 numbers consecutively, okay, the next number, if I've got one number x, the next number would be the number x plus 1. Okay, now it says the sum of the 2 numbers is 263. So here's my first print, here's my second print. If I add those together, I'm going to get 263. Okay, so to solve this, I want to combine my like terms. So I've got x and x. It's going to give me 2x. Add the 1, so plus 1. And then that's going to equal 263. All right. Now, if I want to solve this equation, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1 from both sides. All right. And so what I would get as a result up here, sorry, there's not too much room here, would be 2x. So 2x, and that would be equal to 262. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and divide both by 2. Okay. And so I've got this. I've got that x is going to equal 131. Okay? So now here's what I've got. All right, my first print. Okay? So my first print has the value of just x. Okay? My second print has a value of x plus 1. All right, so if the value of x is 131, that means that my first print is going to be print number 131. Okay, now my second print means that I need to take 131 and add it to 1. Okay, so this print number here is going to be 132. All right, and you can kind of just think logically about that and just say, hey, if the first print is going to be just 131, then the next one would be 132. Okay, and if I add those 2 numbers together, I should get what I started with, which is 163. Okay, now the other thing is this limited edition of 150 prints. So when I get my answer, I want to make sure that my numbers are below 150, okay, to get that. All right, let's take a look at the last one here. Okay, it says the perimeter on a lacrosse field. Okay, so it says the perimeter of a lacrosse field is 340 yards. The length is 50 yards longer than the width. We want to find the dimensions of the field. So this is a pretty standard word problem. So let's just go ahead and draw a picture here. Okay, and so I'm going to label this as the width, and this is my length. Now my perimeter, remember, is equal, so the equation that I have is 2 times L plus 2 times W, okay? And that's kind of important. So let's go through this, and I kind of jumped ahead real quick. let's go back through and kind of highlight some important information. The perimeter, okay, of a lacrosse field is 340 yards, okay? The length is 50 yards longer than the width, okay? And the question is asking us to find the dimensions of the field. Okay, so here's what I know, and that is this, okay? The length is 50 yards longer than the width. What I don't know is either of them, okay? I don't know what the length is, but I know it's 50 yards longer than the width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the width, I'm going to call that just x. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to label that here as x. Okay, and my length is 50, what is it, 54 or 50? 50 yards longer than the width. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and call this the length of the width, which is x, and then I'm going to add 50 to that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug these values into my formula. The other thing that I know is that my perimeter, so let's write this down. My perimeter here, P, is equal to 340 yards. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 340 for P. All right, so I'm going to do 340 is equal to 2 times the length. Now the length is equal to the value of x plus 50. All right, so I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to plug this in as x plus 50. Okay, and then I'm going to add 2 times my width, which was just x. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for x. Okay, so I'm going to distribute my 2 here. So I get 340 is equal to 2 times x, so 2x, and then 2 times 50, which is 100. All right, and then plus another 2x. Okay, now I'm going to combine my like terms. So keep my equal sign there. I'm going to get 4x. 2x added to 2x is going to give me 4x. Okay, plus 100, and that's going to equal 340. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides to solve for x. So minus 100. Okay, and that's going to give me 240 is equal to 4x. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Okay, and that's going to give me that x is equal to 60. Okay, and that's going to be 60 yards. So I have that information. I know what x is, but now the question's asking me, what are the dimensions of the field? So what I want to do is then say, okay, well, my width is just equal to x. Okay, and then my length, L, is equal to x plus 50. All right, so if I plug in 60 for x, my width is just going to be 60. Okay, plug that in for x. That's 60 yards. Okay, and then my length is going to be 60 plus 50. All right, so my length is going to be 110 yards. All right, so now if I were to write my answer, okay, and when you write things with dimensions, we want to do length by width, so I would do 60 yards by 110 yards. Okay, and that's my answer. So a lot of these problems, guys, really do, require you to read and understand the question. Now, the thing that I want to say here is that to familiarize yourself with the equation or the problem or situation, I would read, okay, read again, and read again. Okay? Read and read and read and read again, until you guys come up with, until you understand what it's asking you. Okay? I would draw pictures. I would, figure out what you want your variables to be, and go through that process. All right. So it can be a little tricky, but if you do a lot of these, then it'll become a little bit easier for you. So hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.